the final play, the disaster, the roadblock in the way of the umpire who was supposed to go spot the ball so Dak Prescott could snap and spike it. Here's Mike McCarthy from earlier today talking about that fateful final play of the playoff loss to San Francisco.
In this particular instance, I think when you see Tyler get the ball, he looks for the umpire. He turns and looks for the umpire. So I think it's only a natural reaction to, because if the umpire's not there, we're taught to put the ball in a proper space. And I think not only the distance that the umpire had to come from, and the collision that he was part of, I can't speak on his behalf. What he saw, actually what the spot was, as far, basically on the way it all happened. So, usually, the training tapes will show you, 9 out of 10 of them are tap, and we call it a 3-2-1. The clock's coming down 3-2-1 because you want to snap that ball right at 2 seconds. So, yeah, I don't have any problem with our mechanics. But if the umpire's right there, yeah, give it to him because we talk about 2 resets. Everybody's got to get set, and then there's a potential reset if the ball's not properly spotted based on how the ump feels in it. But trying to eliminate that step, if you put it right on the hash, on the edge of the half with the tip on it, which is the same mechanics that the umpires use, then you're hoping to save a step there, where that's usually when it becomes a tap. And it's really, my understanding is, as long as they have what they feel is an appropriate spot, which usually in that instance, coming down to the wire like that, you usually get the tap there.
Charean, what dressing do you like on your word salad? Do you like oil and vinegar, a little French, a little Thousand Island? Come on. Talking and saying nothing. And don't give us excuses. Don't give us explanations. This gets back to what we were talking about. And I'm sorry. Well, we can either be honest with people or we can sugarcoat it in order to preserve access and kiss everyone's ass like others do. Watch other shows if that's what you're interested in. Here you're going to get the truth. The truth is this. Mike McCarthy isn't in the group of great head coaches because great head coaches are detail-driven. And the detail includes, as we've said earlier this week, when you practice the play, you have someone playing the role of the umpire who has to get through traffic to spot the ball so you can spike it. You can't simulate that without someone playing the role of the umpire. And we'll take it one step farther. In the timeout, before that play is called, you find a way to grab the umpire or the referee or both and say, hey, we're going to run it here. Be ready. Because that split second of the umpire saying to himself, oh, crap. Oh, crap. I got to get down there. Oh, crap. Here we go. Oh, crap. I got to get through this. That delays it and potentially keeps you from getting it done as well. The umpire did everything humanly possible to get in position to allow them to snap the ball. It's not his fault. They shouldn't make it directly or indirectly his fault in any way. He busted his ass to get in position. It's on the Cowboys for not understanding that he had to get through the bodies, for not practicing it with an umpire being simulated in that setting, and ultimately not giving the officiating crew a heads up. That's their fault across the board. Belichick, Sean Payton, if they're going to pin their season on that play, you know damn well they're going to be paying attention to those details, Charean.
Oh, absolutely. And everything you just said, Mike, because when you watch it, the umpire he ends up probably 30 yards behind the play. And, he's flying to get up there. You just see him flying to get up there. But first of all, Dak Prescott, and he was asked this in the post-game press conference, why didn't he slide earlier? You didn't need to get to the 24-yard line, which actually was probably the 26-yard line, but neither here nor there. You didn't need to get quite that close. Slide earlier if you're going to do that. Tell the umpire before the play happens so he knows not to take those steps back and to go forward. To me, they did everything possible wrong in that play. I yelled out in the Prescott box when he took off. I said, what are you doing? And Clarence Hill, who was sitting close to me, says, well, they're trying to get closer. I said, you don't have time to do that. And everything I've read and people I've talked to said they wouldn't have run that play with less than about 16 to 18 seconds on the clock at that point. They would have thrown to try to get closer and then throw it into the end zone. The Cowboys chose to do it with 14 seconds on the clock, and they got what they got. And why they thought there was going to be a review of it, there was nothing to review there. There was absolutely nothing to review. And there had to be at least 2 seconds to put any time back on the clock, and we know there were not 2 seconds left on the clock when he spiked it. So in that instance, why didn't they run a play? Why did they spike the ball? So many questions on this play. But hey, they weren't good enough to win this game. They shouldn't have won this game. They shouldn't have come down to that play because San Francisco should have put them away far before that.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm reminded of that Monday night game between the Bears and the Steelers, and the NFL loved the fact that the focal point of the attention after the game was the Cassius Marsh posturing toward the sideline, the Tony Corrente hip check, because it provided perfect cover for and distraction from the horrendous low block call that Corrente made to take a touchdown off the board. And this is similar. At some level, the Joneses have to love the fact that this is attracting attention away from the fact that their team sucked on Sunday and they should have lost by more than 20 points. And but for Jimmy Garoppolo being Jimmy Garoppolo, they would have. That's really the headline of this. They should have never been in a position to have a shot at the end zone that late. But, whether it's throwing the ball to the slot receiver, you can have as few as 12 seconds and gain 8 yards and clock it. I've been told by a coach that's possible. Or just throw 2 Hail Marys from the 40. Or take the 30. I firmly believe I'd rather have the 30 for one shot at the end zone than the 25, because with the 25, they can more aggressively guard the end zone. At the 30, they have to be wary of the final 10 yards where maybe you could drop something in there. So failure across the board. And this is why the Joneses have to ask themselves, have we entrusted our team, our franchise, our mega yacht worth 10 times the amount of the mega yacht that Jerry Jones bought a few years ago? Are we comfortable making the captain of that ship Mike McCarthy? And if you are, hey, you're going to get what you deserve.
Yeah, that's right, Mike, because it's not going to be any different next year. I don't see this thing being, and in fact, it could be worse if you lose Dan Quinn to Denver or somewhere else. Who are you going to get in here as defensive coordinator? Because he's probably going to be assistant coach of the year with the job he did with this defense. So now you're starting over with a new defensive coordinator, so it actually could be worse next season than it was this season. And you've got so many free agents. You're over the salary cap next season. There are a lot of things that I just don't see this Cowboys team taking another step next year, which is what it will take for Mike McCarthy to keep his job if he keeps it into 2022.
There have been scattered complaints from Cowboys players in recent weeks about the number of penalties they take, and Sims has been very adamant about this on our morning show, and he's accurate. They're committing the penalties. These aren't bad calls. These are penalties that they are committing, and they are being flagged. You can't ignore obvious penalties. You have to call them as a game official. So that's not on the officials, that's on the players. Here's McCarthy from earlier today talking about the issues with penalties and the connection between penalties and discipline.
I just did 3 days of exit interviews, talked to every member of our football team, just concluded about 1 o'clock, and they're very accountable. And our number one focus moving forward is the penalties. I mean, it's way too many. You look at the pre-snaps, there's no excuse for it. So it's been a focus all year. We've been coaching penalties since week 1. I mean, it's something that, particularly the holding and the pre-snap penalties. Those are the two that jump off the charts. We definitely need to be much better in that area.
I'm confused. During the exit interviews, we talked to the players about penalties, and they're very accountable. Well, what accountability is there now unless it truly is an exit interview and they're never coming back? That's the ultimate accountability. I don't know what the accountability is when the season's over. The accountability has to happen week in and week out, so you don't have this. This is just offense and special teams on the screen from just Sunday's game alone against the San Francisco 49ers. And then there were plenty of defensive penalties, and it was illegal hands to the face by Neville Gallimore that extended the drive by the San Francisco 49ers that allowed them to take more time off the clock, that never would have let it come down to that tick, tick, tick final 20 seconds. They would have had a lot more time. It's the next to the last call. You see it there, 4:36 to play, 3rd and 12. The 49ers were off the field and punting, but for Neville Gallimore being called for illegal use of hands to the face. Another first down, more time off the clock. Less time for the Cowboys when they finally got the ball back. It's inexcusable. And we know from Bill Belichick how obsessed he is with limiting the number of penalties that his team has, because that's real field position, and that over time can screw you. 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards, that will kill you if you have too many penalties.
I laughed when we were watching the Mike McCarthy video right there because he talked about coaching penalties. Bill Parcells used to always say, I don't coach penalties, but yet they were always one of the lowest penalized team. This season, the Cowboys were the most penalized team in the NFL during the regular season. They set a franchise record with those 14 penalties. And you talk about the Gallimore penalty. What about the Randy Gregory penalty for defensive holding there that would have probably gotten them the ball back sooner there at the end of the game, and they wouldn't have been rushing and probably would have had time left on the clock to try to make some throws into the end zone if not for that. But it is what it is. They did that all season. When I looked at the 14 penalties, maybe there were two you could argue. I think Trent Williams drew Randy Gregory offsides on two of those. Those were 2 5-yard penalties. Those were early. And the official actually talked to Trent Williams during a timeout. I watched that conversation, and Trent Williams was not happy with the conversation. So I think those were probably 2 missed penalties. Even if you take those out, it's 12 penalties and some very costly penalties for the Cowboys. But, Mike, it's what they did all year long.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.